Shock Piece: The Search for Freedom. A novel by C. Nguyen. Chapter 5: The Reunion. The evening was slow. Time passed even more slowly than in the morning. Television was still inactive, and most of the time it broadcasted the new national anthem of the National Liberation Front, reminding the South of the dramatic change of government in their land. Mother was sitting on a small stool in front of the house after the meal, waiting for Nguyen to come home. She longed to see the familiar outline of one of the 3 boys in her brood of 7 children. Pitifully small and fragile in the dusk, she was the picture of an anxious mother waiting for her beloved son's return. Her arms were folded tightly against her chest, body leaning forward, hands crossed on opposite arms, chin almost touching her knees, and eyes gleaming with choked-back tears, hoping for a young man to materialize. The street in front was not as busy as it was at lunchtime, as if the curfew was still in place. Everyone was inside their house, whispering. Mother stayed on her small stool until the street went dark, even though there was a continuous flow of soldiers passing by the house. Nguyen was still nowhere to be seen. Mother recognized the South Vietnamese soldiers by the look on their faces and part of their outfits or appearance, as most were in civilian clothes. Some were wounded with bandages on their arms, feet, or heads. They wore the same look of tiredness and despondence as the soldiers who appeared in the morning before the fall of Saigon. Some walked past and looked back at her, knowing that she was waiting for her son. Their walk was taking them home to their loved ones. Feeling sad and disappointed, Mother went inside. Her shoulders stooped, and her steps were slow. She was sick with worry. That night there was less noise than on previous nights. There was no more bombardment, but there was still occasional gunfire to be heard. The sky was darker than usual. It was pitch black. Not a star was in sight. After many frightening nights, bright with flares and bombing, it seemed darkness was not friendlier after all. A feeling of foreboding had fallen on the city since lunchtime. No one wanted to go to sleep. Everyone was staying downstairs near the useless bomb shelters, but not inside. No one wanted to be separated from the family unit, perhaps out of fear. Togetherness seemed to be important to all of them at that time. Somehow, the terror of facing the North Vietnamese communists increased in intensity with the passing hours. Even the children could sense the naked fear from the adults' outward appearance. Trin was curious about its palpable horror even though it was so obscure. And strangely, the words were just communist and communism. In her young mind, she could not understand the adults' fear, regardless that she too had felt it for no apparent reason. The mysterious panic and trepidation were real. To this day, Trin was still able to recall the terror of the fall of Saigon. From the memory of a young girl of 13, the effect of that appalling threat from the communists and communism was still vivid. They were whispering to each other in the dark, adults to adults and children to children, retelling the events of the day as if they still could not believe what had happened. "It's spooky," Luke said. "Yeah, everything's spooky. Even their tank. It looked scary," Kim also commented. "Poor Liam, he's scared stiff." Juan laughed softly. "Served him right, wearing red boxer shorts on a day like this." "You're cruel. No one noticed that, but everyone was scared too," Drin said softly. "I know I was." "Me too," Kim agreed. "Yeah, weird silence and a strange feeling in the air, like a horror movie," Juan admitted, even after his light-hearted laugh. Then they went quiet, trying to get some sleep. Trin lay next to her mother and listened to her long sighs during the night. Poor mother. She was worried sick, Trin thought. No one was able to sleep much. as whenever she was awake, Trin heard tossing and turning or rustling of pillows in the dark inside the mosquito net. The next morning, full of anxiety, Mother could not do anything but wait at the front door again. She set up a station with the limited supply of food available to her. Kim and Trin helped her to fill up her bucket of water whenever it was empty. The trickle of soldiers passing by the house continued. Like Mother, even in civilian clothes, Trin could tell they belonged to the now defunct Army of the Republic of Vietnam. From the look, the gait, the walk. All that made them different. Mother tried to stop as many as she could by giving them boiled rice, salted fish, dried bananas, and water from a bamboo basket next to her station. Some waved their hands in a negative gesture and walked hurriedly past, obviously uninterested in any conversation. Their faces haggard and their expressions blank. Some stopped and were grateful for what Mother was offering. Tears streamed down Mother's face when they said, "Thank you for your kindness. I'm so hungry," and hugged her goodbye after gulping down what she gave them. Most knew where they were heading to, but some were lost and asked for directions. Their unit had disintegrated, somewhere as far away as Long Can, where Dien was last heard of, and where Father's plantation was situated. "How did you get here from so far away, son?" Mother asked one of them. "I walked and hitchhiked my way, missus." "How did you manage with food and water?" She was surprised. "Most of us were given food and water from kind people like you, missus. Lucky for us, most of the Southerners were still from our side and not Viet Cong infiltrators." He spilled out the heated sentence and continued the report quickly. "There are dead bodies on National Route 1, scattered along the whole stretch. But I did not have the time and energy to bury them. I just kept walking, missus." He was sorrowful and full of regret for what he had failed to do for his unfortunate fellow soldiers. "They gave us some clothes to wear too, as we did not want to walk with our uniforms on, and we put down our guns, military hard hats, and grenades on the way." "What about shelter?" "We slept in the kitchen of their houses and under their verandas." "Yeah, there are still people caring for us soldiers," he concluded sourly. "I'm glad to hear that, son. I am as worried as all the mothers in the country are now. Go home to your mother, son. She'll be glad to see you." Mother continued to ask for more information from the soldiers who stopped. "Which battalion were you from, dear? The 18th? She hoped for some recognition. "Yes, missus." The soldier hesitated a little while before answering, as if afraid of giving away too much information about himself. "Are there many of you walking home like this?" "Yes. From what I've last seen, many of us are walking or hitchhiking. The army buses took as many as they could to some destinations, but the rest were on foot." "When were you dismissed from the army unit, son?" The soldier thought for a while as if unsure of the time frame. "It must have been 3 or 4 days ago, missus. I'm not sure. Everything seemed so confusing." He stopped, then said again, "I'm sorry, He apologized and did not finish his sentence. She was not sure of what he was sorry about, whether it was his losing the war or his confusing of the time, but she let it pass. She was so relieved to hear that the soldiers from the 18th Battalion were finding their way home by themselves, and that Dien might be coming home late after all. She pushed her luck. "Do you know a GI Nguyen Van Dien?" The soldier shook his head again. He chewed on the piece of dried banana and swallowed it down hastily, with a gulp of water before he answered. "No, I'm sorry, missus. I don't know of anyone of that name. He's a clerk for Colonel Nguyen. You must know Colonel Nguyen. He's in the 18th Battalion." "Yes, I know Colonel Nguyen." The soldier apologized once more. "But I don't know GI Nguyen Van Dien. I'm very sorry, missus." Mother sighed heavily. She released the soldier's arm and let him go reluctantly, as if he was the last thread of connection with her son. The day was almost gone, and the sun went down slowly, leaving a reddish trail in the sky and some faint light on the horizon. Mother was more anxious with the coming of darkness, and no one knew how to allay her distress. "It's one more night that your brother is not safe," she whispered. It had been a day as futile as the previous one in her longing for her son's return. They packed up whatever was left of their supply and were about to give up. With one last effort, Drin looked further to the right and saw a silhouette 100 meters away, walking hurriedly in their direction. She hastily pointed it out to Mother and Kim, and then the little girl ran toward him without speaking another word. Dien! Dien! There he is! Kim was running with her, and now both were shouting with joy. It was unmistakably their brother, walking home for 100 kilometers in his civilian clothes and army boots. Mother stood still, her tears streaming down in rivulets, her hands shaking, and her legs giving way so that she had to sit down on her stool, waiting for her son to come home at last.